Good evening, everyone. Hope you're all well. Thanks very much for joining me this evening. So this morning I got my COVID vaccination. I only mention this in case if I fall asleep or if I start to get fever or shakiness, you'll know the reason why. So just so you're aware, no problem so far, everyone's fine. Good evening, Linda. Lovely to see you and I hope you're well. That's cheeky. That can only come from Morna. Thank you, Barbara. Yeah, I was really pleased to get it, as I think everyone will be. And just very gratifying to see the amount of volunteers at the vaccination centres and how well organised it is. When I arrived 15 minutes early, was taken 5 minutes early, and I was out before I was meant to be in, if you see what I mean. So it's really good. It was a lovely service. It was a young army guy who gave me the jab. So I would recommend it. And of course, hopefully everyone will be safe and well and will be back to some kind of normal come the summer or after the summer. So thank you all very much for joining me, and this is a kind of sad occasion has given rise to this. We've lost a colleague unexpectedly, I believe, and yeah, I'll come to that in a second, but let's start with a wee practice. If you can sit with your feet flat on the floor, hip width apart, small at the back and against the back of your chair, and back nice and upright, so you're feeling alive and alert. One hand on top of the other, thumbs gently touching, placed in your lap. Head dipped down a little, and just gently close your eyes. Just imagine everything begins to slow down. The world around you is slower. Your heartbeat is more relaxed. Your breathing is slower and more rhythmical. And your mind begins to slow and relax. Whatever else has been in your mind earlier today starts to slow down and weaken and dissipate until it just disappears. And all that remains is you sitting or lying down in a relaxed way, aware of the slowness, enjoying the lack of busyness, feeling your mind begin to rest and recover, feeling your body just being alive rather than constantly on the move. Feeling the benefit of the absence of the eyes being open, so you don't have all that visual input to absorb. And the sounds around you are mostly quiet. They can just be enjoyed. So we turn to a a different version of being alive, and the one that dominates our everyday life. Instead of busyness and doing, we're still and silent. And what the ancient philosophers in China and Japan called actionless action. So you still get things done, but it doesn't feel like you're doing anything. So I was doing the dishes 15 minutes ago. And normally the busyness says, get the dishes done, get the dishes done, get the dishes done, because you want to do something else. And the complaining mind says, why is it always me that has to do the dishes? But when we're mindful, we just are the thing doing the dishes. Dishes were dirty. We rub them, clean them with cloth, rinse them, now they're clean. Without us thinking about it, without us moaning about it, we are just making the dishes clean. That's actionless action. It's just being there when you're doing something. We're just being here. We are doing something. It doesn't feel like we're doing something. It's how to live a peaceful, effective life. Just being with the doing. Feeling calm and content throughout. Now gently take the attention to your eyelids. Maybe reluctantly, but we have to open the eyes sometime. Give yourself a minute or so and just allow your eyes to very softly and very slowly begin to open. And as they do, keep your eyes downward gazed and unfocused, away from the glare of your screen as best you can. Trust your eyes to return to normal in their own way and in their own time. And meanwhile, just continue to feel content and at peace as your eyes very slowly and gently begin to open. And there's no rush, so just take your time. Okay, so that's me out of my session. Just take your time, allow that to come out in its own way. So we want to talk about the thing that nobody talks about, which is death. In the end of a life, it's for those who've ever seen someone who's passed away. It's quite not shocking. Maybe that's a way of describing it. It's quite a bamboozling thing. So I've seen my sister, my brother, and my mum and my dad dead. I've seen them have life, and then moments later, or minutes later, or a few hours later, not have life It's the same body, but something's gone. And we shy away from that. And I think with mindfulness helps us gain insights about life that maybe other people have through their faith, religion. But with mindfulness, we see it in the moment and we gain insights. And one of the big insights of mindfulness, because we're watching moment by moment by moment, is you start to accept that everything happens. Good things happen, not so good things happen, terrible things happen, things you expect happen, things you don't expect happen. So you start to slowly but surely cultivate, without trying, an accepting state of mind. Not a passive state of mind, not a defeatist state of mind, but a recognition that things happen and that unexpected things happen. Now, in the case of the loss of life, everyone loses a life. Everything that's alive loses its life. We all know that, so that's not a surprise. But the timing of it and who dies can often be a real bolt out of the blue, a real shock. And mindfulness also helps us get used to that. That it's not just that everything happens and you accept that things happen. It's that some things happen at completely what seems like the wrong time, before their time, in the wrong place or wherever. And mindfulness says it is a kind of shrug of the shoulders. It's not an indifference, but it's a really deep acceptance that sometimes that'll happen. So I went to Japan 2 years, 4 months ago with my daughter. I get a chance of a really good cheap flights in this country that both of us love. Went to see it, and in the second last day, woke up to a message from my wife, and text message says, "Give me a call when you wake up and you know something dreadful has happened." And it turned out that my brother was diagnosed with lung cancer, advanced stage, and he had a week to live. And no expectation. He smoked, he was 57, and hadn't suffered beforehand from anything like that. Now, it does hit you, but what mindfulness then does is help you manage, help you, in the words of what we've got, to navigate. And although the term we use is calling on inner strength to navigate through a bereavement, it's actually not strength. It's, I was going to say wisdom. Sounds a bit pretentious or a bit grandiose. But when you know that unexpected things happen and you're able to accept it and not get thrown away by it, then it is a kind of wisdom. It's maybe a better way of putting it is it's a connection to life. Obviously, as many of you know, I've been doing a lot of mindful walks, talking through a mindful walk, doing one this morning, doing one for months. And what you see when you're in nature every day, soaking in the same kind of walks, but the different weather systems, you see the seasons changing, not just the 4 seasons, but tiny little changes within those. Then you start to feel a connection. You start to feel that you're part of it and it's part of you. That sounds maybe pretentious, but it's real. That's how you feel. It's just an accurate description. And part of that is knowing when things die. Because in nature, that happens. You come across a dead bird. You come across a tree that's been diseased, and you can see it's no longer functioning. And when you build this up, and that is the inner strength, I guess, you build it up through pure observation. Observation leads to insights, but you don't have to put the insights into words like, oh, I now believe this or I think this, because it's inside you anyway. And the only way I can describe it is you just keep putting the five senses out there, soaking things in, don't think about it, don't reflect about it, don't be intellectual about it. Just let it soak in. And it will do the building, and it will do the strengthening, and it will do the nurturing inside you. And eventually you start to see things in a different way, based on real life, moment by moment observation. It sounds a wee bit abstract, but it's so practical. It is literally like picking up the cup and feeling the cold on the ceramic, and how lovely that feels to the mind. It's a strange thing. You start to gain these insights. You put your hand on the cup. The cup is cold because the water inside it's cold. You feel the cold on your fingertips, and it sends a message all the way up to your brain that says, that's cold. And the brain sends it back down and says, well, it's actually pleasant. It's like a conversation within yourself. Now, when you do this every day, hundreds of times a day, possibly, even a couple of times a day when you're beginning, you start to build this wider and deeper view of being alive. And part of that, a big important part of it, is we stop being so possessive, I think. Stop being maybe even so clinging. Quite a lot of our relationships with friends, with family, partners, can be twisted a little bit. It's not just pure love, it's almost like a dependency. And we get used to one another, so used to one another that we are not just joined in the healthy way, but almost unhealthily depend on one another, and we stop being a kind of free-flowing, bright, independent person that's also connected to the other person. And I think when that's the case, you can really get hammered when someone you love dies. It happened to me once, many, many years ago. I worked my way around the world for 4 years and lost touch with a lot of my friends from university. About 15 years later, or rather from high school, 15 or 20 years later, I found somebody at the beginning of the internet and got back in touch with them and said, it's great, that's great. Got in touch with 3 other friends, and it was really nice. And then I said, what about this person? And they said, don't you know? And I said, what do you mean? And they said, he died of a brain hemorrhage when he was 26. And I was talking to them about when I was 40 or in the late 30s. And that was just before I started mindfulness. And I was shattered by this, even though I hadn't seen my friend since he was 18, so 20 years had passed. But to know that someone had died while I was gallivanting around the world, working my way around the world, and he had died, and I didn't know, and I wasn't able to send a card of condolence to his family, who I knew. I'm just completely oblivious to this. The time difference of 18, 20 years meant nothing. And I was still emotionally attached to the idea of my friend. But this isn't to be cold. This is to be, I think, different is the only way of putting it. Normally, we are shocked and then dragged down, I think, by grief and bereavement, and it can be very, very destructive, very, very hurtful. But grief is also, there's a version of grief that's very healthy, and the ability with mindfulness to distinguish between healthy grief, which washes you with emotion and leaves you clean and empty, it's the only way I could describe it, tired, but healthier for it. And being dragged down, the only analogy I ever think of is it's like being in a whirlpool. You can't escape it, and it's dragging you, whirling, and taking you deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's a horrible thing. And so I've experienced both. And what I've found is with mindfulness, you can choose the healthier path, and you're in control of, to a degree, of the scale of the grief. What I found that was even more helpful and healthy when my parents died 3.5 weeks apart 8 years ago. And it was a really, really very difficult year because they were both obviously dying, and some made minor recoveries and you were hopeful, and then they saw the other one going down and they then were worried for the other one. And it's so poignant, really, really poignant. 15 months, and we were caring for them day in, day out, overnight, etc. But when they died, and I couldn't mourn for my dad because my mum was still dying, and then you're kind of mourning for the two of them, and so you're not really mourning each of them singularly. It's like a package deal, you're buy one grief, get one free sort of thing. And it's bizarre. But what I noticed was when my mind sometimes went to good times, really good times when I was with them, especially as a child, I had an idyllic childhood. And my mum especially was a wonderful mum, a lot of freedom, but made sure we were safe and also made sure we were well educated. And my dad was kind of there more in the background, but when he played with you, it was great. So it was a lovely childhood. And when I take my mind back to that, and when I took my mind back to that in the months following their deaths, I noticed I was happy. And I noticed that grief is unhappy. This is, talk about the obvious. But it's one thing to know that, it's another thing to notice it while it's happening. And then I started experimenting and seeing just, can I change grief to gratitude? It will. And first it took me 20, 30 seconds. And I just started placing my attention to good things about my parents. And there was a wee bit of wistfulness there, but it made me happy. And I wasn't avoiding their deaths. In fact, I was more directly facing it. And I just turned grief to celebration and gratitude. And that's what I kept doing from there on in. Not to avoid the grief, but more to give due thanks and love to my parents, that opportunity to reappraise and just think how great they were. And that worked. It worked like a dream. And one of the beauties, this is what I mean by insights, mindfulness is you don't know you can do this until you try it. And the great American philosopher, ecologist Henry David Thoreau once said, life is an experiment that's rarely tried. And I think it's such an important and beautiful statement. We are so dominated by our automatic thoughts, by the cultures we grow up in, by the societies we grow up in, that we're kind of blinkered to think a certain way in life. And that's not to say that all of it's wrong, but it just means that we haven't stepped out of that and said, okay, now as an adult, What do I really think? How should I really behave? How should I really react? And mindfulness helps you do that. And one of the beauties is, in terms of, for example, faith, is it can take you out of what you were brought up to believe as a child, let you completely reappraise it, and go back into it more fully committed to it, because you've now looked at it as an adult. And you may have come to the same conclusions, slightly different conclusions, but you're now you being it rather than just you being the passive recipient of it. And it's the same with death, that you can start to see death in a different way. When you're in nature, when you walk in nature and you see the cycles of life and death, then you start to realise how good a system it is. You know, if nothing died, everything would be completely chock-a-block. And that might sound cold and a bit distant when, as you have and as I have, when you lose somebody you care about. But it's actually very important to understand, not at a brain level, but understand at a heart level really deeply, that it's the right thing that people should come and go. It's the right thing that I should die at some point, because it makes space for others to live. And the beauty of mindfulness is it doesn't really, if you practice it and if you live mindfully, it doesn't really matter how long you live, because you've got a moment, a great moment, there's another one, great moment, picking up the cup, drinking the water and loving it, that's enough. Any other moment's a bonus. The next moment's a bonus, bonus, bonus. And if I die in 5 minutes' time, apart from you having a heart attack and shock, then that's okay. And if it's okay that I go at whatever time luck, fate, chance, God, whatever chooses, then it's okay that anyone else goes that way. Now, this might be quite hard to even to follow, because we're so used to thinking about life and death in particular ways. But to think of death as a good thing for the world, a good thing even within one's own family, that there is a time, you know, and this whole biblical thing, you know, to everything there is a season, you know, a time to live, a time to die. And we need to really get that deep inside us. When we get that inside us more and more by practicing, noticing the breath, being grateful that you've got a breath, being grateful that you've even breathed in, being grateful that you've given air back out to the world for somebody else to breathe in, then you start to see that this world is an astonishing thing, and that life is a miracle, and that you've got this astonishing miracle called life. And it doesn't matter how long you've got it for, and it doesn't matter how long the people you love have got it for, although we'd all like it to be a long time. What matters is we've got it, and how do we make use of it? And that's down to moments. And in those moments, can we make things blossom? Can we make people laugh? Can we make people happy? Can we soothe people in their pain? And can we just look and just say, wow, look at the clouds. Look at the blue sky today. It's just gorgeous. And when we do that, then death takes its proper place in our mind and in our heart, which is a necessary, sad, but okay thing. And that takes practice. I mean, one of the ironies in my life is of it. So many people, 6 people die in 8 years, people I would say I truly loved and truly love. And that brings another thing to mind, which is just because they're dead doesn't mean you stop having a relationship with them, whether you believe in an afterlife or not. I came across that again by chance or by insight. After my parents died, I one day imagined There were 3 chairs, me, Dad, Mum, and I invented a conversation with them. Told them how my wife was getting on, told them how my 2 children were getting on, and I imagined what they would say, and that felt so good. Didn't feel like I was avoiding their deaths. It felt like I was directly facing it, and then being creative. Say, well, why not? I impersonate my dad quite a lot because he has a distinctive Polish accent. So if I would say Ian's, at that point, gone to Zurich to do a PhD in organic chemistry, my dad would say, he was a bright one. He was a bright one in the family. He never got the intelligence from you, Martin. It's just funny. And you can bring them mentally to life. Now, I think this is, to me, the fullest beauty of mindfulness, which is that the way we have evolved and the way our genes program us, and then the way our parents and our schools and our society condition us as well, not meaning to be in any way harmful and often very good. But all of that put together means that we almost don't really truly live our own life. We're living someone else's programs, our ancestors' programs and our society's programs and our families' programs, all running through in our head, directing us. And what we can do is start to see that, why don't we just keep the good stuff that we've got from our genes, from the ancestors? Why don't we just keep the good stuff from our parents? Why don't we just keep the good stuff from our society? And why don't we start to see what stuff isn't there useful and start to jettison it? And I think grief is one of those things that is one of the tricky ones, which is, it's good in certain doses, but you don't want to overdose on grief. But when we're blinkered and conditioned, we don't feel that we've got any control over that at all. It hits us, it makes us feel down, it makes us feel sad at random times. And what I've learned from mindfulness is that you can actually work with this thing up here, this amazing, astonishing thing, and you don't have to accept its norms, its ways of seeing death. You can create new ways of seeing it, and some of them are fantastic when you do it. So there's a tree up, we'll call Badger Wood, where we do our mindfulness walks in the morning. And my mum liked silver birch trees, and so I just called that my mum's tree in my own head one day. Never mentioned this to anybody before. And when I pass it by, I just kind of just give a wee nod. I have to say, hi mum, or my mum would love this tree. And that's it, it's just a few seconds. But that's an imagination, that's a creation by a human mind that all of you could do. If you think of your colleagues that you've lost, then why not keep an empty chair? Or why not put a photograph somewhere special? Or why not just leave a little candle that's someplace forever, until all of you have aged and retired, and you pass on, the last one of you who's still working passes on to the next generations of folk doing the great work you're doing, and say, keep that candle there. That was for somebody we loved who left us too early. And it can be a tradition that they don't even know the person now, but they do understand the meaning, which is that we remember people we love, but we remember them with something positive and constructive, like a candle. Candle is warmth and light. I mean, how good an analogy can you get? But this needs to be, and again, you can't subdivide life, and you can't subdivide mindfulness. You can't be mindful about grief, excluding everything else in life. You can't be mindful about a sip of water and say, for the next 10 days, all I'm going to notice is a sip of water and hope that'll do the trick. The whole point of mindfulness is to notice whatever is going on in the present moment. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel physically? Touch. What do you smell? What do you taste? What's popping up in your mind? Is it healthy? Is it unhealthy? Is it pleasant? Is it unpleasant? Is it kind? Is it unkind? And then use that mind with imagination. Let's do something special. Let's do something different. Let's create something. And creation can be just as simple as a few words. A few words written in a note, placed in a desk for the next 30 years. And it's a reminder. We loved you, wish you had more time with you. Full stop. And every time you walk by it, something like that. That's up to you. But what mindfulness does is it brings a clarity of thought about what matters in this situation. And I think what matters in this situation is celebration of someone's life. What matters is remembrance. And what matters is gratitude and caring for one another. If you get celebration and remembrance and gratitude, you can even just put those 3 words down on a desk. Say, that's how we're going to be. That is our confirmation of what the great Dylan Thomas said, in one of his earliest poems, and death shall have no dominion. We are not going to be ruled by death. We're going to be ruled by remembrance of life. And that's a very different way of seeing the same thing. This is all about how we see. There are different ways of seeing, and there are healthy ways of seeing. There are uplifting ways of seeing. There are inspiring ways of seeing. And there are tricky ways of seeing. There are dangerous ways of seeing. And there are downright destructive ways of seeing. And we need to be sufficiently in charge of this mind thing that we can move in the right direction more and more in our moments to bring the beauty of life. The other thing that I do personally, it's getting quite crowded in my mind now with folk who I've loved and lost, is I live my life for them deliberately, and it's a good one. I mean, again, I don't try to think these things up. They come as a result of practicing mindfulness. But what I decided, it was actually with my sister dying. I was very, very close to my sister Maria. She died just 2 years ago now. She died at 67. She had kidney cancer for a decade. And so every year after she got it, it was a bonus for us. She was too unwell to go to my mum's funeral, having gone to my dad's 3 weeks earlier. So, and that was 8 years ago, so I didn't think she would last. My mum died in November, and I didn't think Maria would last till Christmas. She was so unwell, so we got another sort of 6 years, all bonus. Anyway, it was when Maria died, and she was so full of a love of life that I said, I'll live for her. It's a stupid thought, because obviously you can't. But in your mind you can. And you can say, I will determine to live my life as fully and as richly and as positively and as helpfully and as lightly and kindly a manner as if it's for two people. And then I thought, well, David's gone as well, my younger brother, well, make it 3. Let's do it for 3. And it's not like it weighs on your shoulders, it's actually lighter, because you're trying to live for everyone and trying to enjoy even more. And then I thought, well, I'll do it with Mum and Dad as well. Aunt Danka died, okay, come along. Aunt Frances died, okay, come along. And it's actually fun's the wrong way to put it. It's a very light way of living. You don't feel burdened by junk because you're trying to live life for 5 other people or 6 other people as well as yourself, get as much out of life. You've got no time for junk. If it was a committee, if the 7 of us, me and my 6 dead loved ones, were a committee and we say, well, let's do this or watch this or something like that, let's have a vote on it. They say, don't waste your time, don't waste your life with this. Go and do something better. Go and sip that water again. And all 7 of us in the committee said, oh, wow, it's great to drink water. Now, it's just daft. But this is so healthy, so helpful. So, I hope some of that made sense to you. It's very personal. The best way to remember someone who you've loved and lost is to live your life fully. There's a brilliant vow you can make in Buddhism, which is called bodhicitta. And its basic wording is, you will seek to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all living things. And I always thought that, I took a vow on that when I was studying with them before they asked me to teach. Just because it was such a good way of seeing life that you will try to better yourself, not for the usual way of getting promotion or whatever, or riches or whatever, but you will try to better yourself, especially your mind, your quality of mind, in order to help other living things. And that's to me, a really good pathway to follow, good path to follow in life. And I think that's what happens when someone you love dies. You think, well, just improve your mind so that you can help other people and help them as much as you can. Thanks, Samar, I really appreciate that. So let's now do a wee practice so that we can cultivate this quality of mind a little bit more, moment by moment, and also get some peace and some rest. So if we can sit with our feet flat on the floor, hip width apart, small at the back and against the back of your chair, back nice and upright, so you're feeling alive and alert. One hand on top of the other, thumbs gently touching, placed in your lap. Head dip down a little, and just very gently close your eyes. Gently place your attention just inside the nostrils. Let your breath be slow and a wee bit deeper than normal. As you breathe in, just imagine or realize that you're breathing in the source of life. Excuse my son laughing. It's a nice sound. And as you breathe out, you're sharing life with the rest of the world. Breathing in the essence of keeping alive. Without air, we can't live. Breathing out, you're giving the potential of life to anyone or anything else that breathes it in. So breathing in is receiving life, and breathing out is giving life. And if your mind gets distracted by thoughts or sounds or feelings, that's always okay. We accept that the mind does this, and that's okay. But we don't get taken away, carried away by the thoughts or the feelings. Rather, we just acknowledge them and just gently take the attention back to the breath and back to the awareness that we're breathing in more life, more opportunity for life, and we're breathing out a return to life, giving back something to life with every out-breath, gaining more life with every in-breath. And you can think to yourself, breathing in, I'm grateful to be alive. Breathing out, I feel at peace. Breathing in, I'm so grateful to have life. Breathing out, it's beautiful to feel at peace. You can shorten the words to breathing in, Just the word grateful. Breathing out, peace. Grateful and peace. Now gently take the attention to your eyelids. Notice how peaceful your eyelids are. Just place your attention there and absorb the peace of your eyelids. As if the eyelids are soothing you with each breath. And now, giving them a minute or two, allow your eyelids to very softly and very slowly begin to open. And as they do, keep your eyes downward gazed and unfocused, away from the glare of your screen as best you can to shield your eyes when they begin to open. And trust the eyes to return to normal in their own time and in their own way. So there's no need to push it or force the eyes open. Let it happen naturally. And meanwhile, just relax and enjoy your state of mind as you slowly but gently come out of practice. Okay, that's me out of my practice. No need to rush to open your eyes just now, just let that happen in its own time. Thank you all so much for joining me this evening, and I hope that was a helpful talk and session, and I wish you obviously all the very best in the days and weeks going ahead, and hopefully see you sometime soon again on a practice. I will be back on in 20 minutes and Facebook Live doing an evening session, which will be nice for me, and if anybody wants to join me, that's absolutely fine. Thank you. Thanks, Samar. Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Barbara. My pleasure. And thanks, Linda. Always good to see you. And you, Siobhan. Thank you, Samar. Thanks, Angela. You take care. Keep well. Okay, everyone, I'll just head now. Take care. Have a lovely rest of the evening, and I'll see you again sometime soon. Bye now. Thank you.